In today's series, we're going to go over 2023 Mazda 3 Hatch Premium Package 2.5 all-wheel drive in polymetal gray metallic over red interior. And we're going to talk about that increase of 5 horsepower to see how the drive really is, and we're going to compare it to rivals like Toyota and Honda to see if that 5 horsepower really did alter anything in the drive or the performance. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides. I'm going to go over all the specs and details starting now. The Mazda 3 hatchback in the poly gray metallic is always the charm really to go to, because this is a unique color, came out a couple years ago, and it just makes this thing pop anywhere, whether it's this type of light or pure sunlight in the sunny state of Florida. Starting with your LED headlamps, daytime runnings, and the headlamp assembly has the gloss black that runs underneath it that wraps around the whole mouth of the enlarged grille. On the lower bit, you'll get the matte black, 5.5 inches of clearance. This is going to be more than Toyota and Honda. It's going to be a lot more sleek. 18-inch 5 double spoke alloy wheels. The disc reading behind it at 11 inches. It's ventilated. The rear at 10.4 inches. It's solid. Independent McPherson strut front suspension. The rear will get your torsion beam. Both will have your coil springs, brake actuated limited slip differential. G Vectoring Control Plus, I-Active all-wheel drive. A length at 176.5 inches. A wheelbase 107.3 inches. This is going to be a little bit longer than the Corolla, but it's shorter than the Civic. So you have the perfect blend. And if you need it to be raised up, you go to the CX-30, which is pretty much a hatchback that's raised to an SUV. One thing that's unique about Mazda is they have a S that is in the back door panel, which you could see on the different angles, which stresses motion even with the car sitting still. A large area unfortunately comes into blind spot because of that signature twist. Gloss black for the lower roof spoiler, LED taillights with the gloss black that covers the top of them. Paying attention to detail, Mazda really spec'd it out. Non-power lift gate going inside to 20.1 cubic feet of storage behind the back seats. Underneath the floor, you'll have a spare tire. Split fold the rear bench at a 60-40 split, increase in cargo to 47.1 cubic feet. Because it's a hatch, the interior is going to be a little bit easier, but it is raised up a little bit more so than the Honda. Let's go inside, start it up so you can hear that exhaust fan. Now I know this is not the turbo variant, so it's not going to be as aggressive as that one, especially with the performance numbers. But the good thing is we have increased horsepower by 5, and Mazda backs the performance with a Sky Active G 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine producing 191 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. That's paired to a 6-speed Sky Active drive transmission, achieving 26 to 33 mpgs. That's good for a 0 to 60 around 7 seconds, with a quarter mile around 15 seconds. And what do these numbers equivalent to? Well, this is the actual fastest variant, comparing it to the rivals, the best in horsepower unless you're going to the Corolla GR. So you have a lot of performance attributes, great gas consumption if you do not option the turbo. You go into the turbo, it's going to drink a lot more gas, going to be a little bit more aggressive. 0 to 60 numbers drop significantly, the same thing with the quarter mile. However, what we got is finally an increase of power. Let me know what you think about the 2023 Mazda 3 Hatch as we go into the interior, go over the tech, and take this for our drive. Entering inside the Mazda 3 Hatch, a little bit lower to the ground, but you still have sufficient clearance. Headroom at 38 inches because we have a sunroof. Legroom at 42 inches. Leather bucket front seats. 10-way power adjustment for the driver. 4-way manual adjustment for the passenger. They're heated seats, memory for the driver. The dashboard has a 2-part tier. So you'll have the leatherette that's going to be in the red, and then on the top it's going to be more of a harder material with your 8.8-inch non-touchscreen. Running on the lower trim, you'll have your air vents that go seamless into your dual climate control settings here, and I like how they keep with the pattern on both sides, and they integrate a little storage pocket for the driver's side. Non-touchscreen, you have navigation, just not programmed in. Put it into reverse, you have the lines, they just don't move, and it does not cover the whole screen, so it makes it a little bit smaller, and depending on how tall you are, it may droop down, so you might lose some of the visibility of your infotainment screen. With a large storage pocket, cup holders, I would say you can probably fit about a 32 ounce without any issues. Working down, you get the gloss black leather around the shifter with your rotary knob. That's pretty self-explanatory. You just push it to go into whatever command. If you want to go back, you can just hit the back button here. Very straightforward. It's pretty easy for the most part. Obviously, touchscreen is what everyone likes. Heads-up display. It's going to be a lot more sporty for your arms to rest. This slides back. Then you open it up and you have a divider, which you can optimize your space with 2 USBs and a 12-volt. Leather wrap steering wheel. It's 3-spoke with multi-functions and paddle shifters. The gauge cluster has a digital reader in the center. The door panel and the dash integrate in together, starting with the Bose premium sound system. That's a 12-speaker upgrade with the leatherette on the door panel. It's going to be a little bit more sporty for your arms to rest. One touch up and down for all the windows in the gloss black. A long storage pocket just tapers down as soon as it gets to the back. For the back seats, I'm at 37.2 inches of headroom, 35.1 inches of legroom. It's going to be a little bit cramped. The CX30 actually gives you a little bit more space in the width. It's also raised up as the hatch. Storage behind the passenger seat, no vents, no charging ports going onto the door panel. Your everyday materials on the top. You get the softer materials with the red and the chrome. It's going to be pretty soft for your elbows. One touch up and down for your windows with the gloss black. A storage pocket that you can fit a larger bottle and maybe a smaller cell phone. Sitting into the center, there's no happy medium. My head is going to be against it. I'm 6'3". My legs are going to be pretty much against the back of the front seats in the position I'd be sitting, unless I sit like this, in which it's still going to be uncomfortable. There's not a lot of feet space, butt or shoulder space, because it's not that wide in the interior. 191 horsepower, up from 186. We're going to see how that performance is, putting it into sport, and here we go. And your brakes, you don't really have an issue with that. The performance obviously is not going to be as fast as the turbo variant, but it is nice that they have increased it 5 horsepower. The torque is still at the 186. I kind of wish that both of them were more at 200 or at least 220, but I get it. You're selling a turbo, why would you increase it much more than it is? Dynamics, it stays relatively planted if you maneuver a little bit here and there. The steering wheel has some weight to it. I can see the heads-up display with polarized glasses, so that's definitely a plus, because it's not normally the case whenever you get into any other vehicle nowadays. As for comfort, you're going to feel a little bit more of the imperfections in the road. The suspension is a little bit more sport-derived, but that's going to be okay because it's a hatch. You're expecting to have some feel to it. Interior sound deadening, I think that they did a decent job with it overall. You can hear the drone-like engine when it hits around 2.5 to 3 RPMs. Otherwise, you just hear a little bit of wind noise, and again, that's to be expected. You're around $31,000. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck considering the total package you get. Now that's gonna bring me to some pros and cons, and we're gonna go over that right now. Starting off with what I like about the vehicle, a cool little thing which Infiniti is actually doing it on the infotainment screen, and Nissan. When you put your windshield wiper on auto, you'll see auto on the actual stock, it'll light up. So you know that you have it engaged, and you don't have to just play with it, because sometimes you forget that you have the automatic windshield wipers on, and then you're sitting here playing with it and it's going crazy. Here it actually indicates and lets you know that it's already active. The second thing that I like, the Bose sound system. 12 speaker upgrade, it's definitely something that I would entertain. With the Bluetooth connectivity, you can hear without any issues, and it is a clean, clear sound, which typically when you get into these lower priced vehicles, it starts to get a little bit more muffled, and it just doesn't sound right. It's not necessarily distorted, it just has kind of like this instead of like this. Turn radius, we're gonna do it at more or less a stop point. It's gonna receive about 2 lanes and give her a little go. This is your everyday drive, so you're going to be hitting 3 RPMs regardless because of the engine being under 200 horsepower. It has enough momentum. The pedal doesn't necessarily feel heavy in sport. When you put it in your daily, it still feels pretty good. It activates like it should. The last thing that I like is the dashboard layout, how everything is seamlessly connected. They did a fabulous job giving that extra luxury touch for a price tag that's just a hair over 30 grand. On the disadvantages, some cons, this dash bulges out and it almost covers the infotainment screen. Kind of wish they would have maybe moved it up, but they tried to also make it where it was hidden. So I kind of understand, but in the same perspective, it just looks like this becomes an eyesore because it's always in front of your infotainment. It doesn't necessarily block it, and even if you're short, you could still see above it. It just would be nice if this was maybe closer. Because it's not touchscreen, I understand the distance, it's not a huge thing. Taking me to the second thing, there's a lot of interfaces in it. If you want to do simple commands, you have to do multiple functions in order to do this. The last thing that I dislike has to go to the storage. It kind of lacks in it. It has more than the Corolla, but it's still a little bit tight in the sense for the door pockets in the center here. They could have added maybe a pass-through instead of just keeping this closed. That way it would optimize a little bit more storage in the front at least, because in the back they even take the pocket behind the driver's seat and you lose that storage space. I'm smiling not necessarily because of the performance, but how it is performing. You're just waiting for it. It's a 6-speed automatic transmission, and what happens with that, you go to a higher RPM in order to actually get the car engaged more, and this also makes it a little bit more of a woo, because you're waiting for it to get to that higher RPM to change the gear so you can go faster. If it was an 8-speed, it would get a little bit better gas consumption and you would be changing gears a little bit quicker, so it could actually alter the speed 0 to 60.25 mile. 5 horsepower, it's not going to make or break the bank, especially if you're comparing it to a 2022. I mean, it's only 5 horsepower. Now, one thing to note is if you are a taller person, it isn't necessarily so wide. So going on a long journey, you don't necessarily feel claustrophobic. Just with this in the Corolla, it's going to be a little bit more tight in the width. When you get into the Honda, it does stretch out just a little bit more. The nice thing about Mazda is you can get the non-turbo, so it sips gas, or you can get the performance with the turbo, and then you're pretty much going after the Corolla GR. So you have the best of both worlds and a fun daily driver. I like to thank Tyrone Square Mazda for giving us this 2023 Mazda 3 Hatch for our car review. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Hawkeye community. If not, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the next video and the subscribe button. Check out the merchandise, website, and Instagram, and everything we do here at Hawkeye Rides.